So the question there is, how does that where's the value in that? Why would an operator do any of these things? Well, the answer to that is to flip the question around. And this is our research, which was done just a few weeks ago. And what we went out and we said, are you thinking of switching mobile operator in order to get access to the mobile content applications you want? Yes, quite a few people are. And it's really quite a lot. And we think previous analyses have suggested, if we take the UK environment as an example, if one operator stops mobile content and applications development and just offers a skim on a third-party application store and really doesn't invest in it and doesn't do its own services and at all, they will probably lose about 15% of their market share. So they go from, say, 35% down to 31%. That's because quite a lot of consumers regard mobile operators as the most appropriate entity to provide, for example, advertising based on the customer information. They're actually better positioned to do that anyway, charging and various applications which rely on trust and user information. People just think their mobile operator is the most appropriate person to do that, the most appropriate entity to do that. So there's a range of people. What's interesting here is the amount of time with operator. So I'm wondering if this is sort of driven by handset and age of handset. So when people are first get to a new operator, they're quite happy, but by the time they've been there a couple of years, their handset's a bit out of date, and they're thinking, well, I could do a little better, maybe. So that's quite interesting. In terms of the impact of that, well, the impact's huge, because you might lose a bit of direct revenue, because if I'm a customer and I say, well, actually, I don't want to spend my €1 a month with Vodafone. I want on mobile content. I want to take my €1 and spend it with Orange. The thing is, I'm taking my entire ARPU, my entire spend. I'm taking all the SMS spend, all the data spend, everything else, and that is £25 a month as opposed to the £1 a month I might spend on mobile content. So what we did is we modeled a whole market, and we said, well, look, let's have an operator with 35% market share, or two operators with 35% market share, and two with 15%. Let's assume that one of the guys at 35% just stops investing in mobile content and applications, loses 15% of market share, which is distributed across the other operators. And we looked at the difference in revenues for these guys. So the one that stops investing loses a certain amount of revenue for direct revenue for mobile content. They lose about 8.5 times as much for SMS and voice spend, etc. Equivalent effect on margins on the right-hand side, slightly lower effect because the margins on voice and SMS, or voice certainly, are less than the margins on mobile content and data services. So there's a very significant effect if an operator stops investing. So they're kind of compelled to do it. And they're compelled to do it. And if they do it right, then what they get is they get a stream of revenue, not a one-off revenue hit. How does... mobile operator, phone vendor or platform operator and third parties. And the point I'm trying to make here is right now, these different categories of provider of application are essentially competing head-on for a user's attention. And users tend to sort of, maybe not the third parties, but I guess maybe coming to regard the platforms as the first place to go. Longer term, I think what happens is that most content for most users will come from the mobile operator. As we get people who are less sophisticated, less at the bleeding edge of mobile content and application consumption, they're going to be the mobile operators are the ones that are incentivized and motivated to invest in segmenting, in guiding their customers and to the content that they need, rather than the phone vendors and platform vendors. It's worth noting actually that the App Store doesn't make any money. It's there to drive hardware sales. So they're not really, I mean, I guess they are motivated in individual one-off sales of content, but it's the mobile operators who really generate from the revenue stream and will therefore invest more. Oop, better speed up. Okay, I'll speed up. Developer perspective. There's a range of priorities of different developers. Probably the main priorities for the content owners and large developers are market size. Garage, smaller developers just want low development costs, particularly low development costs that are non-people costs, i.e. outpaid money, cash. Otherwise, content owners, large developers, basically looking for programming environment capabilities, can take advantage of marketing functions and potentially thinking about some, it's not happening much yet, but thinking about network connectivity and intelligence and network APIs and really using the operator's network functionality. Major issue for developers is application discovery. Is application discovery. The top 5 ways of discovering applications are upgrading from a free version, reading good reviews, word of mouth, and high ranking on download charts. All of those things are very closed. It's very hard to break into that. For a new game to be discovered and get significant scales, it's either got to have an existing customer base, there's got to be a significant marketing investment, or just leveraging the brand value of developer or whoever. As games become more mainstream, recruiting more casual and less hardcore users, the top 10 and recommended lists are going to be more important. There's going to be less people sort of breaking outside that closed environment, so it becomes maybe even more closed. And as I mentioned before, none of the application stores are really likely to want to invest or have the information to, or certainly when compared to a mobile operator, have the information with which to target and segment the user base and target games. And as I mentioned, the Apple App Store doesn't make money. It's roughly break even. The way they make the money is that drives sales of the hardware. So how do developers tend to find success in application development? And these are some sort of, talking to some developers, these are some traits which stand out. Being very clear about what the application should achieve, rather than just sort of punting out an application and sitting back, really monitoring it, and the performance in an application store, etc. Doing something different, the 53rd calculator application on the App Store isn't going to get much revenue. And it's not just about sales, it's about a journey. It's about getting a customer, it's about engaging them, and it's about retaining them, and also integrating Facebook, Twitter, and other social engagement tools to engage their friends, who will be people who probably like similar things. So there's a ready pool of people there to market to. Applications that are not one-off, a series or a sequence gives a natural pool of people to sell each incremental version to. Releasing early gets monetization, gets money flowing quickly. Building communities to foster some kind of, just to foster communications around the application. And focus on target platforms and devices. This is something I'll cover later in terms of fragmentation, but you can't offer an application to everyone on every device. It's just a huge investment. Pick a couple of devices. iPhone's probably not a bad one to start with. See how successful the application is, and then see whether the business case stacks to translate that to other environments. And just very quickly, brands and corporates, well, I mean, it's not really for me to say what brands and corporates are trying to do, but there's a whole range of things from from cost reduction, marketing, loyalty, etc. Just some interesting things I pulled out that have sort of just struck me as interesting as I've researched over the months, etc. BA's application where they actually have the boarding card on an iPhone, so you get the boarding card, and the boarding card gets scanned, lowering costs, etc., making customer experience easier. This pizza, I think it's Pizza Express, where it's just obviously an easy way and a fun way of ordering a pizza, I guess. Drives sales. Bottom right's information. This is a day in Paris, so it's information about Paris. This one is Jaeger LeCoultre, watchmaker, very expensive watchmaker. And I guess that's about, well, people aren't going to buy their watches too often, so I guess it's about generating engagement between times when, or leading up to times when people do spend quite a lot on one of those. Volkswagen Group, and also if you include Audi as well, being quite successful in using these car driving challenges to promote new brands, new models, etc. At that point, I should wrap up, so I think I've run out of time.